I recently stopped watching Netflix. I realized the programming was a lot of gloom and doom and, end of the world kind of stuff.
Hey, it's Walter here, and you're at the Think Profit podcast, where we're going to help you develop a rock-solid trading confidence and avoid the potentially endless cycle of system switching. Right, Hugh?
That's right. We're going to help you develop a wealth mindset, develop a trading strategy that fits your core personality, and help you overcome the obstacles that stop over 90% of traders.
All right, Hugh, sounds good. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do this. All right, Walter, let's talk a little bit about the media and that effect it can have on your mindset.
So for me, the biggest thing about the media is that the guys that you listen to on those business channels who talk about the markets and stuff, at least half of them are wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes, yeah, and sometimes more than half. Like, you have situations like, especially where there's a roaring bubble or something. It's really hard to find the dissenters. Like, they're very few, and sometimes they don't get any airplay. Peter Schiff comes to mind. So people who followed Peter Schiff would know. He was one of the lone voices, in 2006, 2007, saying that the housing market was going to crash in the U.S. And he was literally laughed off the TV. Like, all the other guests thought you were an idiot. Literally. And he ended up being right, of course. And so, I think it's easy to read newspapers or like The Economist or, whatever Sky News or CNBC in the States or whatever it is in your country. Like, it's easy to kind of get locked into that. And I think that's a mistake. FX Street is interesting because at least at FX Street, they have multiple points of view. Like, in other words, like fundamental points of view and technical points of view, which is I think really good. Usually when you're looking at the TV, you're only going to get the fundamental point of view. Yeah. And that's why when I talk to people about trading that don't know anything about it, they often go, wow, how do you keep on track of all the world events and stuff like that? Like, they always talk about that because they assume that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that isn't really necessarily the case for a lot of retail traders who are technical like I am and you are, So, so I think the problem with that is the social proof. Like, you get into following that cognitive bias called social proof, and you guys can look that up, but essentially, following what everyone else does. Yeah. And I think that's the issue with the media. For me, like, that's the biggest one, is that you can kind of get sucked into that mindset. Well, if everyone says the euro is going up on TV, it's going up, right? Like, there's all these reasons why, or it has to go up, or, oil has to go up, it's almost at zero or whatever. Yeah. So.
Hey there, I hope you're finding this episode useful. I just wanted to let you know that Walter and I give away something valuable every month that helps traders improve their skills. You can enter to win by simply leaving an iTunes review and leaving a comment on our YouTube videos. At the end of each month, we'll look at the comments and reviews from the month, and we'll pick a winner at random. Each comment and each review counts for one entry during the month that it's submitted. So if you're interested in that, be sure to enter after this podcast is over. All right, back to the episode. Yeah. I guess I can't fault a lot of traders for doing that, because when you're starting out, you kind of need that frame of reference, right? It's something to look at. But yeah, it definitely can affect. And you never know what the agendas are behind some of those tips or whatever, right? So
yeah, that's a good point. Like, in Australia, the number one advertiser in Australia in all the papers, all the newspapers and stuff, it's the real estate market. So the local newspapers, they're reticent to talk about anything in terms of like a bubble or anything like that, because that's their livelihood, right? They literally make their money. Like, if it weren't for real estate agents advertising, I don't see how they would exist. Like, it's just crazy. So these newspapers, you have to keep that in mind. Like, where are they getting their money from? And, the same thing, like, every time you see someone on CNBC or whatever on those business channels, a lot of times they're fund managers, right? And that's why I think they're supposed to disclose, right? They're supposed to disclose, like, oh, I don't hold any positions of United Airlines or, or whatever. Yeah. Because, they know that they can kind of sway opinion, which is crazy when you think about it. Like, these they can sway opinion just by a 15-minute presentation on TV and a quick little 5-question interview, and like all of a sudden that changes, the demand for a stock or something like that. So it's
that is crazy.
It's pretty crazy, really. Yeah.
Maybe we can take it one step further. Also, like, I recently stopped watching Netflix. I realized the programming was a lot of gloom and doom and end of the world kind of stuff. So what do you think about that? Like, just the overall general media.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. I have a friend from high school, and she's like an exec at Netflix, and she posted something on her Facebook, and I'm like, dude, what is that? Like, what? and she's like, oh, she was at Nickelodeon and then she jump shipped to Netflix. And she's like, oh, that's like a show on Nickelodeon. I'm like, oh, like it was a character, like a cartoon character or something. I'm like, but someone drew it on the ground or something, or like in concrete or something, like wet concrete or something. I'm like, dude, what is that? It looks like a dead horse or something. And she's like, no, that's like a cartoon that I worked on at Nickelodeon before I went to Netflix. And it's interesting because I think if you follow the money and see where, like, who owns what, it's really interesting to see. Like, there's some really good books on this. Maybe we can post them in the show notes. But some really good book. Yeah, they're really, really good books on which corporations own which. It's a kind of a giant shell game, and you can kind of see like what the agenda is. Like, what would happen if you become fearful of a certain thing? What are people likely to do? What are they likely to buy? What are they likely to seek? All those sorts of things. And we know, for example, like if you blast a headline on the internet or on a newspaper that says something really great, like, oh, amazing, girl who lost legs can walk again with bionic legs, right? You put that on there versus, girl dies in a tragic car accident last night and her family's so sad. Like, you know what I mean? They know which one is going to get more eyeballs on it. They know that it's the gloom and doom, right? And it's so interesting. Like, the people that I know who don't spend a lot of time, and I don't watch TV. I would say though that it's hard, even when you're on the internet a lot, it's hard to kind of switch off that news sometimes because it kind of comes into your face. Like, they make it really easy. So yeah, that's difficult. But the people I know who don't spend a lot of time watching TV, like, they seem happier. You know what I mean? Like, it's obvious.
I noticed that too. Like, I'd stop watching for a week and then I'd watch for a week and then I was noticeably like a little bit, not depressed, but just like not as happy.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's weird. Like they need it. They need that fear to make you pay attention. Like, fear makes you pay attention more than I think that's kind of how we're wired. I don't fault them because that they do that, because if you think about it, like, when do you really want to get healthy? Well, when you have a health scare, right? Like, people don't walk around going, oh, I don't want to get fat. I don't want to get fat. I don't want to get fat. Or I don't want to get heart disease. I don't want to get heart disease. I don't want to get heart disease. What happens is they get a scare and the doctor says, dude, you got to lose 20 pounds or something happens to your heart or whatever. And then you're like, holy crap, I need to get healthy. Like, it's always you know what I mean? Like, your doctor gets paid when you're sick, right? Doctor doesn't get paid when you're healthy, sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's kind of how we're wired. We just think that things are going to keep going the way they are until something scares us. And that kind of shocks us out of our sleep. And we go, whoa, what's going on here? We have to pay attention to that. And I think it's kind of inbuilt the way the way we're wired.
Yeah, that's true. And that's what sells. So, that's what keeps them in business or whatever. So I get that too. Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, Walter.
Thanks.
All information in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not trading or investment advice.